Welcome to Sharing the Middle, where recovering perfectionists, overachievers, and anyone in the middle of a struggle come together to learn to embrace the messy middles of life. I'm Lacey, your friend in the middle and guide, whose claim to fame this week is simply making it through about 4 of the busiest imaginable days possible and actually recording this and sharing it with you. Today we have a mini episode, and it's mostly true to form, still getting back into the swing of things. I've got a little reading for you, and then we'll do some advice from the middle. That's actually just advice of what I've learned this week, and then we'll jump into Lacey Loves. Let's get started. So our reading from the middle today isn't truly a blog post, but more of a musing that I put in the newsletter, and it's something that we're probably going to talk about a little bit more later, and it's called Normal is Made Up. Today is set to be my first day back to normal. I'm actually writing this to you on Tuesday night at 8:08 p.m. and I'm going to let you in on a little secret. I don't think I'm going to be ready to be back to normal when you read or hear this. Now, I'm still in the middle of trying to figure out what the heck my normal is. As a person who worked for other people and organizations for so long, having complete control over my schedule has been a big adjustment. Add in fluctuating energy and ability levels, and I have no idea what each day is going to look like. I have also accepted that I'm just no longer normal. I'm not of normal health. I'm not the normal mom who can do things. I am not the normal 9-to-5 gal. This idea that one day, after going through something pretty dang emotional, is going to be back to normal is ridiculous. So if you are listening to this, my friend, remember, normal is completely made up, and it doesn't matter unless you want it to. Now, typically in the advice from the middle section, I take a listener email and give advice, but instead I thought I would just take a moment and tell you some things that I've learned in the past few weeks when it comes to grief. Last week, I lost my grandma, who it's hard to put into words how important she was to my family. And it's hard to put into words because her importance wasn't like big or showy. It was her presence and her love. And there are things that are not as tangible as we may have for other people in our life. And so that right there has been a huge realization that I want to impart some advice to you of really taking a moment and taking stock of the people in your world who maybe don't say as much or don't physically do as much, but their presence and their love and their unwavering support is palpable. And I think that is something that I'm really starting to think about and look around now. Obviously, it's hard. It's hard to think of a world without my grandma for lots of reasons. But now that she is no longer in this world that I'm in, there is a loss. But I do know, and I can think of a few people that are just a present that make my world a better place. And I'm going to be more thoughtful in how I make sure that they know that they are that for me and valuing it so much. So that's one piece. I think the other big takeaway that I've had over the past week is that emotional energy is energy. So you've heard me talk about how I am on this journey of figuring out how to pace myself and how to exert. That's the word I'm looking for. I'm learning how to exert energy in certain places and being very strategic with my energy because it is of a limited supply for me. And I have come to the realization that emotional energy, whether you are actively paying attention to it or not, is also part of that equation. And so really one of the biggest things this past week, it's not like I've been spending days crying or anything like that, but I liken it to if you have an app in the background of your phone that's wearing down the battery, that is emotional energy. And I think recognizing it and being okay with it is huge. And it's been huge for me. And it will continue to be huge for me because grief is not linear. And as I said, I am not sure what normal looks like for me. And there are going to be lots of moments of really feeling the loss. And that emotional energy is part of my entire equation. And that's okay. And I can honor that. And sometimes I won't know it's there, but whatever. Now I at least know how much a part of the equation it is. So, two just kind of general-ish things that I've learned and pieces of advice that I felt could be pretty actionable for you if either of those are something you need to hear, right? If you do have a question or piece of advice you're looking for from the middle, send an email to hello@themiddle.com and I can maybe read your letter and give you some great advice or not great advice. I'd like to think it's great, but who knows? I don't know if it's great. I've gotten too deep into this, haven't I? I'll give advice. You get to decide if it's great. And our last segment today is Lacey Loves. And I would be remiss to not talk a little bit more about the awesome woman that my grandma was, because her love, I loved her. And I have been thinking about her and her legacy so much. And so I'll tell you a little story. So Grandma was a great cook. And in her eulogy, I wrote about how she would always tell us how to cook things. And no matter what, I would try to make it at home and it was just never as good. And I realize now that her love was some of the magic of her food, and that there was something about her making it for you that just made it so much better. And today, my mom, being the wonderful person she is, she dropped off some of the different things that were in Grandma's refrigerator. We don't want food to go to waste, and my house will always eat food. And one of those things were some Lunchables, just as something that Grandma could grab and eat really quick. And my husband brought me a Lunchable, and I was eating it, and I said to him, "Oh, this tickles me so much, something about eating a Lunchable." And he said, "Well, it's your grandma. She's still feeding you now." And I didn't cry then, but I might cry now. And I loved that sentiment. I'm a big fan of my husband for bringing that to me and thinking of it in that way, that no matter what, she is still nourishing me to this day. And that's so cool. So that is the thing that I love. Lunchables from my grandma. I put this in my newsletter this week, but I love this Maybelline lipstick, and it's really important that I wore red lipstick for the past few days because Grandma always had red lipstick on, no matter what. Not really red. It was a little bit more pink, but we're going to call it red. But she always had her lipstick on, and so I've been wearing those lipsticks, and I got to tell you, put it on once, and then it stays on the rest of the day for me, and that is big deal. Big deal. So I do have a link to that in the show notes, and then you can always find it in my Amazon storefront as well. So that's something that I love. One of the things that made my grandma so wonderful is the love and the community. I don't know the right. My family is very special in a lot of ways. And spending the past few days with them continues to reinforce that. And I am just so grateful and thankful for them and this foundation of life that she gave us. I would be remiss if I didn't say that those were also some things I loved this week. Hopefully that wasn't too sappy. I'm going to have a lot of thoughts on grief. I'm just warning you. Not in a sad way. Honestly, I started writing something yesterday, and I actually think grief is really funny because there's this juxtaposition of expectation and things not meeting those expectations that just make it ripe for laughter. And so even though you probably will hear grief within a lot of my work in the coming weeks, I actually think that it's going to be really joyful in a lot of ways. So stay tuned, and I'm really excited for these next few weeks of the middle because I think they're going to be really special. Thanks so much for joining me today. This was so nice and something I apparently desperately needed to do, and I'm so glad that you were here with me. Have a great day.